16 of the fantasy baseball season. So right here, here's a few hitters I would look to hit on waivers this week. The first guy is Dalton Varsho of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Varsho, he's coming out of nowhere over the last week or two here for fantasy owners. And on the season for Varsho, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, 16 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 200 batting average, and a 306 on base. But the last couple weeks for him, he's been on fire here. 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a stolen base, a 471 batting average, and a 550 on base percentage. So Varsho, he's getting an opportunity each and every day for this Diamondback team. And right now, he's been batting 8th, 6th, and 1st in the lineup since he's come back here and played consistent playing time is Varsho. So the last few games from July 18th versus Chicago, 0 for 2 with a stolen base. July 20th versus Pittsburgh, 2 for 3 with 2 runs and an RBI. July 21st versus Pittsburgh, 2 for 4, a homer and RBI, 2 runs scored. July 23rd at Chicago, 2 for 4 with a homer, 3 RBIs. July 24th at the Cubs, 2 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. And July 25th at the Cubs, 1 for 4. So Varsho, he's been on a home run tear with 3 home runs in his last 4 games. He's been added in 18% of fantasy leagues. And the good thing about him, he qualifies a catcher or an outfielder. If he's going to play every day in the outfield here and some catcher, he's definitely a big add this week, in my opinion, for fantasy owners. And he's still available right now in 74% of leagues, so he's the first add. The second guy is Kike Hernandez of the Boston Red Sox. So Hernandez, he's been on the ad list a couple times on the waiver wire this season, and he's a utility man who pretty much plays most of the infield and the outfield here for this Red Sox team. And on the season for Hernandez, 14 home runs, 38 RBIs, 1 stolen base, 50 runs scored, a 244 batting average, and a 323 on base. In the last couple weeks for him, he's been playing pretty consistent. 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a 278 batting average, and a 357 on base. So right there, those are pretty solid numbers, especially for a guy who qualifies at second, short, and outfield in fantasy baseball. And right now, Hernandez, he's still available as well in 44% of fantasy leagues, which isn't the greatest of number. But if he's out there in your league and you need some versatility, he's definitely an add this week. And he's been added so far in 19% of leagues. So the last few games for him, July 19th at Toronto, 3 for 5 with 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. July 21st at Toronto, 2 for 4 with a homer, 2 RBIs and a run. July 22nd versus the Yankees, 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs. July 23rd versus the Yankees, 2 for 3 with 2 runs. July 24th versus the Yankees, 1 for 5 with a run. July 25th versus the Yankees, 1 for 4 with a run and an RBI. So right now, it looks like he's getting a hit pretty much every day here is Hernandez, and he is with a 6-game hitting streak with a couple multiple hit games thrown in there. And the power's been pretty surprising as well with the 14 homers so far this season. So if you need some utility help or a guy who can play the middle infield, I think Hernandez is a good add this week on the waiver wire. The next hit is Andrew Vaughn of the Chicago White Sox, a recommended add on the wire last week, is once again on the wire here as a recommended add, and he's really picking things up and getting going now, Vaughn. Over the last month here on the season, 11 home runs, 29 RBIs, a stolen base, 42 runs scored, 258 batting average, a 320 on base. In the last couple weeks, he's been playing great baseball. 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 324 batting average, and a 343 on base. So in this time, the only down thing for him here, it's a hit or nothing pretty much for Vaughn. He's not really drawing walks and getting on base, but it's all right. He's showing power. He's driving in runs finally here, and he's living up to the hype for a guy who got pulled up very early in his career after getting drafted, and he's been added in 12% of fantasy leagues. But hey, he's still out there in 63% of leagues is Vaughn. In the last few games for him, July 17th versus Houston, 0 for 5. July 18th versus Houston, 1 for 4. July 19th versus Minnesota, 0 for 5 with a run. July 20th versus Minnesota, 1 for 1, an RBI and a run. July 21st versus Minnesota, 2 for 4 with an RBI. July 23rd in Milwaukee, 3 for 4, a homer and an RBI. And then July 24th at Milwaukee, 2 for 4 with a run. So right now, he's going out there and he's getting multiple hit games in 3 out of his last 4 ball games is Vaughn, and it's a good sign to see for the Chicago White Sox, and it's a good sign for fantasy owners who went out there and picked them up over the last week here. So right now, you should go out there definitely and get Andrew Vaughn, in my opinion. The next hit is Harrison Bader of the St. Louis Cardinals, so he's resurfaced here and starting to get a little more consistent playing time over the last few weeks is Bader. On the season, 7 homers, 21 RBIs, 17 runs scored, 5 stolen bases, 275 batting average, and a 344 on base. But the last couple weeks here, he's been white hot. Is Bader 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 419 batting average, and a 471 on base percentage. So he's gone out there and he's definitely given this St. Louis Cardinal offense a little boost here that it definitely needs, because besides Goldschmidt and Arenado, not many guys are producing in that lineup. So the last few games here for Bader: July 20th versus the Cubs, 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. July 21st versus the Cubs, 3 for 4 with a run and a rib. July 22nd versus the Cubs, 0 for 4. July 23rd at Cincinnati, 2 for 3 with a homer and RBI, 2 runs scored. July 24th at Cincinnati, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And July 25th at the Cincinnati Reds, 3 for 4 with a homer and 3 RBI. So right here, if you need some pop, you need some outfield help, and if you got a lot of injuries, Bader's a good add in my opinion. And he's still available in a great amount of leagues at 90%. So go out there and get Harrison Bader this week, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. The next hit is Akil Baddoo of the Detroit Tigers. Baddoo, one of the better base stealers in Major League Baseball this season. He was a recommended add last week, and some owners, they've gone out there and added him in 18% of fantasy leagues from week 15 to week 16 here. But he's still available in 49% of leagues is Baddoo. So on the season, 9 homers, 38 RBIs, 38 runs scored, 14 stolen bases, like I mentioned, is a high spot for him. A 272 batting average and a 348 on base in the last couple weeks here for Baddoo. 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, a stolen base, 10 runs scored, a 294 batting average, and a 333 on base. So right now, Baddoo, he's going out there and he's giving fantasy owners who picked him up, and obviously this Detroit Tiger team that's not going to go anywhere this season, a little boost here. He's showing some pop with the 9 home runs for a leadoff guy. Obviously the 14 stolen bases, which is definitely a lost art in the major leagues, and he's going out there and doing his thing and playing well the last few games for Baddoo. July 19th versus Texas, 2 for 5 with a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored. July 20th versus Texas, 0 for 4. July 21st versus Texas, 1 for 4, a homer and RBI, and a run. July 22nd versus Texas, 0 for 4. July 24th at Kansas City, 2 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. And July 25th at Kansas City, 1 for 4. So right now, he's at a pretty steady pace, hitting in the mid to high 200s this season. And another guy, you need some stolen bases, you need some outfield help, and a consistent player. Baddoo's definitely a good add this week on the wire. The next hitters, times Cincinnati Red Joey Votto. So Votto, he's been pretty good this season here in his bounce back season, in my opinion, for this Red team. 13 home runs, 45 RBIs, 31 runs scored, a stolen base, a 266 average, and a 360 on base percentage here for Votto. In the last couple weeks, he's been on fire. 3 home runs for Votto in the time, 9 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 343 batting average, and a 439 on base. So right now, Votto this season, he changed his approach up, not taking as many pitches, swinging earlier in the count. And we know throughout his career, this guy's always had a good eye. He always knows how the strike zone is Votto. But this season, he's going for more power, and the batting average is definitely bumped up this season from last year 226, this year 266. So Votto, with the more swinging approach, it's definitely working out for him. The last few games for him, July 19th versus the Mets, 3 for 5, a run and an RBI. July 20th versus the Mets, 2 for 3 with a homer and a rib. July 21st versus the Mets, 0 for 2. July 23rd versus St. Louis, 3 for 5 with a run and 2 RBIs. July 24th versus St. Louis, 1 for 4 with a homer and an RBI. And July 25th versus St. Louis, 1 for 3 with a homer and 3 RBIs. So right now, Joey Votto, he's gone out there and he's producing, and the power's gone up. So if you need a utility hitter or obviously a first baseman. He's definitely a good add, in my opinion, here is Votto, and he's still available in tons of leagues at 66%. So right now, go out there and get him because he's having a good season, and he definitely could contribute to fantasy teams this season. The next hit is Kyle Farmer, the teammate of Joey Votto, and you want to talk about a guy who's a super utility man for fantasy baseball. This guy's the definition of it is Kyle Farmer. He qualifies a catcher, first, second, third, and shortstop. So right here, this is very good versatility, obviously. And he's a guy that should be looked at in more fantasy leagues, in my opinion, especially that he's playing every day. And then he qualifies a catcher as well, which is obviously one of the weakest positions in all of fantasy baseball. And obviously the super utility man here. So the last few games for Farmer: July 19th versus the Mets, 2 for 4. July 20th versus the Mets, 1 for 4. July 21st, 0 for 3. July 23rd, 3 for 4 with 2 runs, a homer, and an RBI versus St. Louis. July 24th versus St. Louis, 1 for 3. And July 25th versus St. Louis, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now, Farmer, he's played every day this week here. And that's great, especially for shortstop and catcher. Like I mentioned, weaker positions, you want a guy that's at least versatile and plays everywhere and could definitely help your fantasy roster. And right now, a lot of people aren't paying attention to Kyle Farmer. And he's out there in a whopping 88% of fantasy leagues. So right here, I'm telling you ahead of time to go out there and get him because I think he's going to be good. And just the versatility alone is very valuable, in my opinion, for fantasy baseball. And his numbers aren't too terrible this season, besides the batting average here for Farmer, with the 8 homers, 30 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 30 runs scored, 236 average, 305 on base. In the last couple weeks, though, he's been red hot: a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a 407 average, and the 467 on base. So right now, while he's on the hot streak and available, like I mentioned, in 88% of fantasy leagues, definitely go out there and get Kyle Farmer. The next hitter is Wong of the Milwaukee Brewers. So Wong, he's been a good player throughout his career, obviously with the Cardinals, and then early in the season where he went to the Brew Crew, but he was injured a couple times this season on the injured list. But he's back now: 8 home runs, 22 RBIs, 37 runs scored, 7 stolen bases here for Wong, a 294 batting average, and a 354 on base in the last couple weeks since he returned from injury. 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a stolen base, a 320 batting average, and a 414 on base percentage here for Wong. So Wong, he's pretty much playing every day here. And he's taken a little away from Luis Urias as well, who's been on a hot streak. But right now, too many infielders over there for the Brewers. And right now, Wong's the recommended pickup over Urias this week in the last few games for Wong. July 17th at Cincinnati, 1 for 4 with 2 runs. July 20th versus the Royals, 1 for 5. July 21st versus the Royals, 1 for 4 with a run. July 23rd versus the White Sox, 1 for 3 with a run. July 24th versus the White Sox, 1 for 4 with a homer and an RBI. So right now, Wong's batting first in this Brewer lineup. Obviously, he's the table setter, and he was one of their bigger off-season signings here, with them giving him a decent chunk of change at, I believe, $8 million a season here for Kolten Wong. So the Brewers obviously in first in this division, and Kolten Wong, he's definitely a good pickup, especially at a weak second base position this season in fantasy baseball, and he's available right now in 68% of fantasy leagues. So I definitely would go out there and add him. The next hitter is Jock Peterson of the Atlanta Braves. So Peterson getting an everyday job here, obviously, with the trade last week of Peterson going from the Chicago Cubs, who are going to be in sell mode by the trade deadline here on the 31st, to the Atlanta Braves, who lost Ronald Acuna, obviously, to the torn ACL. So on the season here for Peterson, 13 home runs, 48 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 39 runs scored, 237 batting average, and a 300 on base in the last couple weeks for him. 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a 286 average, which is definitely great according to Peterson's standards throughout his career, where he's a low 200 to mid 200 hitter at best and a 300 on base percentage. So obviously he's only finding ways getting hits, and I don't expect him to hit 280 this season, but the power definitely is legit for Peterson. We've seen him have a couple seasons throughout his career with 30 plus home runs, and this season with 13 home runs in 291 at-bats. And like I mentioned, he's going to play every day except versus the occasional lefty here for this Brave team. And this Brave team's still trying to compete and try to win this NL East this season. But they're 6 games out right now. But Jock Peterson available in 61% of fantasy leagues. And he's definitely worth an ad. I didn't think he'd come to the Braves and have a big impact like he has so far. Is Peterson. So the last few games from July 18th versus Tampa, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. July 20th versus San Diego, 1 for 4. July 21st versus San Diego, 1 for 5 with an RBI. July 22nd at Philly, 0 for 5. July 23rd at Philly, 0 for 5. July 24th at Philly, a huge game, 4 for 6, a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And July 25th at Philly, 1 for 4. So right now, Peterson, he's batting first. He's the table setter here for this Atlanta Brave team. And this week, he's going to be playing in a lot of ball games, is Peterson in this Brave team. I believe they got 8 or 9 games this week, including 5 with the first place Mets. So Peterson, if you need some power, he's definitely a hitter to go out there and get, especially with a big schedule this week with a few double headers thrown into there. And the final hitter I've looked at on waivers this week is Lamar Wade Jr. of the San Francisco Giants. So Wade Jr., he's pretty much come out of nowhere for this team here, and he's definitely producing, and he's versatile as well for fantasy. First and outfield he qualifies for, and on the season, 10 home runs, 25 RBIs, 23 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a .252 batting average, and a .341 on base here in the last couple weeks here for Lamont Wade Jr. 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, a stolen base, a .241 average, and a .333 on base. So right now, this kid, he's showing mighty power for this San Francisco Giant team. And obviously, they could always use some hitting to go with their good pitching as the first place Giants this season. And already 12 home runs for Lamont Jr. in 148 at-bats. And this guy's turning heads, and he's definitely a player I would go out there and try to get on the wire. And he's available pretty much in every fantasy league at 96% right now. So if you want to get a very good sleeper hitter to get off the wire, this is the guy to go out there and get if you listen this far into the video. So the last few games here for Lamont Jr. July 19th at the Dodgers, 1 for 1 with a run. July 20th at the Dodgers, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. July 21st at the Dodgers, 0 for 3. July 22nd at the Dodgers, 2 for 5 with a run, 2 RBIs, and a stolen bag. July 23rd versus Pittsburgh, 1 for 5 with a rib. July 24th versus Pittsburgh, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. And July 25th versus the Pirates, 3 for 5, 2 homers and 2 RBIs. So right now, he's tearing the cover off the ball. He's showing major power, like I mentioned. Going nowhere is Lamont Wade Jr., in my opinion, for this Giant team. He's going to start every day, and he bats first just about each and every day for this team. So right here, he could be a hot pickup in the next couple weeks. But right now, I'm giving fantasy owners a head start to go out there and get this kid, because he's showing mighty power, and he qualifies at first and outfield. And that's a few hitters I look to go out there and get on the waiver wire here in Week 16 of the fantasy baseball season.